You are now listening to the Palm Pod, brought to you by RSPO, a global partnership for sustainable palm oil. Hi, I'm Fara Rom, and you're tuning into the holiday edition of the Palm Pod. Listen in for engaging discussions, expert insights, and industry updates on sustainable palm oil, guiding consumers and businesses to make better choices for the planet. The holiday season is finally here, and with it comes the joy of delicious roast. I can't wait for the sweet treats and plenty of holiday preps. As we get ready for the festivities, for many people out there, there's a lot of shopping to do. And as today's title suggests, Festive Footprints, making holidays count, it's the perfect time for us to rethink about how our purchases can make a positive impact. And to chat more about this, we are joined by Yasmina Neustadtl, Senior Manager of Market Transformation Americas at RSPO. Welcome, Yasmina. How is your holiday preparation going?
Hi, Farah. Thanks so much for having me on the Palm Pod and with such an interesting topic to cover. Super excited and so cool. My holiday preparation is hectic. As a mother of two young children, the holidays have now become more of a responsibility for them to live in that sort of holiday magic and enjoy it. So, yes, I'm going through a lot of planning, a lot of organizing, lots of Christmas shows, and of course, a lot of work to get done before the holiday itself.
That's really, really exciting. And holidays are, I think, almost everyone anticipating holidays. And for myself, and I'm in Malaysia, we love festivities so much because it's not just Christmas, it's also different festivities, Eid or Hari Raya, Chinese New Year, Deepavali. So there's a lot of celebration that took place in Malaysia in particular. It's similar with other festivities as well, where we are living in a really hyper consumerism era. So sometimes when we do preparation for these celebration, we don't really think about our holiday shopping behaviors. As of recent times, there's a lot of conversation that talks about the impact on how we purchase our items during festivities. So to start, I want to ask for your point of view. How do our holiday shopping behaviors actually impact the environment?
That's a great question to start. Thanks for that. I think kind of to kick off this topic, our holiday shopping behavior impacts the environment, I think, as much as our daily actions do. So as the holidays approach, as you mentioned, society takes on a very consumerist mentality because we're purchasing gifts for so many things, for work parties, for gatherings, for family events. To me, it feels like December is sort of that never-ending month of gift buying and event hosting. And it's really our responsibility as consumers, I think, to shape our consumerism to have less of an impact on the environment itself. It can make such a difference, for example, to pause before we buy and think of a few key elements that can simply change our buying choices immediately. And in turn, they have less of an impact on the environment itself. And I think we'll delve into this further on, but just to mention some impacts, because I think some people might not be that aware of them. And you go shopping and you say, well, you're just so excited, as you mentioned, about the holidays and seeing family and friends that you haven't seen for a while, that you get lost in that moment of buying details and surprises for people that you love. So some of these impacts, I read some statistics from the Environmental Protection Agency that shows, for example, that in North America, people increase their solid waste during the holidays by 25%. So to me, that was crazy. That's a lot. So this waste is obviously increased through packaging, boxes, gift wrapping, and of course, a ton of food waste as well. There's a journalist that I really like, J.B. McKinnon. He said in an article for The Guardian that when people buy less stuff, you get immediate drops in emissions, immediate drops in resource consumption and pollution. And it's unlike anything we've achieved with green technology. So this idea just blows my mind because it's an example of how intensely shopping can really affect the environment.
And for yourself, after becoming a mother of two and also living in year 2024, right, have you noticed if consumer behaviors have evolved towards sustainability in the recent years?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, I think so. I think newer generations are way more conscious. I mean, the term sustainability itself didn't exist till, the late 1980s. So we're more conscious than our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors were, especially ancestors that were living in the wake of the Industrial Revolution, where there was such a shift in
Yep.
producing and consuming goods. But then again, we have access to so much more via online purchasing and platforms that even though the consciousness is there, I think our ancestors, ancestors sound so way back, but like our grandparents, had way more
Yeah.
difficulty in buying gifts than we do. So for me, it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think online buying has really been the tipping point in consumerism because it allows us to have
Mm-hmm.
anything at any time. There was this great article that I read by the David Suzuki Foundation that said that online shopping revolutionized consumer habits and that it influenced broader societal trends, including, how humans understand convenience, how we understand consumerism, and the global economy. And it mentioned that just alone in Canada, there were 27 million digital buyers. So, with like our access to smartphones and online stores, I think this has increased our purchasing power by so much in recent
Mm-hmm.
years, in the past, 20 years. So, it's hard to say. But having said that, I do see peers of mine, at least, being more focused on buying local, supporting local brands,
Mm-hmm.
buying artisanal products, and paying attention to certain details when buying. So, going back to what I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned previously, by simply asking yourself a few questions before buying something, it can make such a difference. And, some of these questions are, is this gift something the person will make use of for a long time? Or,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
what's the quality of this product like? And of course, I couldn't skip this because you have been in RSPO for 9 years, but of course, are the materials or the ingredients in this sustainable? Are they certified, etc.? So I think these questions can really make an impact on our purchasing rather than just picking up the first thing we see for a work party. It's kind of having that mindfulness when we purchase, whether it will serve the person, is it good quality? And is it sustainable? And that really makes a difference, for me at least, when buying.
I do agree with you. I also observe there's a lot more, especially in where I live, a lot more pop-up bazaars that sells artisanal product, and people are actually demanding for more of that sort of
Yeah.
items. But also there's a thought that artisanal products are like so exclusive because it's expensive, right? Compared to like normal products out there that
Yes.
is factory produced. So at the same time, you're mentioning about certification and sustainability. So I think it's a really good segue to talk a bit about the industry that we're in. For the audience, can you explain how or where palm oil may be prevalent in the items that is sold out there? Our everyday holiday purchases, like food and
Yeah,
gifts.
of course, of course. And I do like what you say because, price is a consideration. But
Mm-hmm.
buying yeah, it's always like what is the price that we pay? But going back to
Definitely.
the, palm oil and where it's at or where it can be found, palm oil is in over 50% of the products that we purchase at the supermarket. And we know that during the holidays, there's a lot of hosting, a lot of eating. So evidently, palm oil will be, present in the products that we use during the
Mm-hmm.
holidays. I think some examples that people just don't think about are the cookies that we leave out for Santa, or the cookies that we bake with our kids, or the hot chocolate that we drink at Starbucks, which is an RSPO member, by the
Mm-hmm.
way. The chips that we serve at our dinner parties. I mean, there's so many things that we eat that contain palm oil, but also palm oil is probably present in most of the gifts that we give, certainly in cosmetics, in soaps, creams, in paints that we could be giving our children or our friends. So I dare to say palm oil will be present in many of our gifts this holiday season and definitely present in our meals and parties. As a woman, I love gifting soaps. This is to me the most timeless and lasting and useful gift. I usually gift from companies like L'Occitane and Natura, which are actually both RSPO certified. And this is a gift for me. I'm like, this has palm oil, but also who doesn't love a lush, sustainable bar of soap? So that for me is one of my favorite gifts to give, is just a really nice bar of soap.
from that, can you tell what's the most surprising thing people not know about sustainable palm oil?
Hmm. I think usually when people think of palm oil, at least the sentiment that I hear the most is they immediately think of frying oil or like food related stuff. So for when I talk to people, I think the most surprising thing for consumers that they might not know about sustainable palm oil is that it's found in cosmetics, in creams, in makeup, in soap bars. So it's found in so many things that we use daily. I mentioned before the percentage of palm oil in the supermarket, but there's other stats. So stats that say, for example, that out of 10 bathroom products that you own, 7 will have palm oil derivatives in them. And, through those stats, we know that about 2 of the 7 are RSPO certified. So we still have a long way to go, but we're making
Mm-hmm.
progress. I think for Latin America, the most surprising fact for a consumer will be that 35% of the region's palm oil is certified sustainable, which makes Latin America the leading region in certified sustainable palm oil. And I also think consumers here might be surprised to find out that most of the palm oil that we consume in Latin America is grown here. So it's not imported, from elsewhere. And, oftentimes a lot of my friends, and when we're talking about palm oil, they ask like, oh, is it all coming from Southeast Asia? And they're very
Mm-hmm.
shocked to
Yeah.
hear that most of the palm oil we consume in Latin America is grown here and that almost half is certified RSPO.
That's actually really interesting, and it's actually the first time that I heard that too. So, sustainable palm oil is not just about growing the oil palm sustainably, but also if you think about sustainability, it's about sourcing it from the region, right? To cut off the carbon footprint and things like that. But like you mentioned, the bathroom products, 7 out of 10 has palm oil derivatives, and 2 of the 7 is RSPO certified. So if someone, an average consumer that wants to make better purchases, how can the average consumer tell if a product is sustainably sourced? And especially with palm oil being such a common ingredient out
Such
there.
a common ingredient, but also such a hidden ingredient, right? Because a lot of our products
Mm-hmm.
that contain palm oil derivatives, they're not actually labeled as palm oil. So as with any product, I think you can tell if it's sustainable mostly through its labeling and obviously a little prior research. In the case of RSPO, many of our members have the RSPO label on products, which makes it super easy to just grab a product and see if it's certified sustainable on the packaging itself. But having said this,
Mm-hmm.
many companies choose not to label because of space or for other reasons. So another way is you can go onto the RSPO website and see if the company is an RSPO member, are they certified, etc. Also, some regions have apps that they've developed or that have been developed by RSPO members, which are great. These apps, rate companies who have palm oil in their products and rate the company on how well they're doing with their sustainable sourcing. So, for example, if a company is a member of the RSPO, they'll have a higher rating than a company that isn't. So, I think that what this does is, it encourages the consumer to try and buy from companies who are rated well and they're committed to like a stricter standard, such as the RSPO. So, these are just a few ways I think that you can tell if a product is certified sustainable.
Going back to our conversation about how easy things are these days, about us being able to purchase digitally, how can we balance convenience and sustainability when shopping for the holidays? And why is it important for us to actually think about the long-term consequences or impact of our purchases, especially when we want to lead our life towards more sustainable ways?
Oof, this is a tough question, Fara. I'll answer in two parts because I think that you mentioned two components, convenience and then long-term impact, which I think are both central to our holiday shopping. So starting
Mm-hmm.
with the convenience, some convenience sometimes gets in the way of sustainability, right? It's more convenient, for
Yeah.
example, to sit on a chair at home and order things online that are maybe traveling a very far distance and aren't local. Of course, if there's like a
Yeah.
delivery truck delivering 100 packages instead of 100 cars on the road going to the local mall, the delivery truck is in fact more environmentally friendly. But the problem there
Mm-hmm.
lies in the fact that I can be in Ecuador, where I am right now, and order a jacket from an e-retailer in Malaysia, where you are. And the package will
Yeah.
travel from Malaysia to Ecuador, usually by air or by sea, to some Ecuadorian port. It'll then be sorted and sent to a distribution center, and put onto a vehicle for home delivery. So just the journey from its origin, which is far in this example, has immense emissions. But it's convenient, right? I didn't have to do anything except to browse from my computer and click on a button. So I do think the balance
Yeah.
comes again, and I've been, very repetitive on this, but I'm very passionate about this. It's the balance comes when we're thoughtful about what we purchase. Being mindful of buying local is an easy way to be more sustainable and support local economies. You mentioned the new, Christmas fairs, or the more pop-up shops, and I think every city and town has that, especially in the holidays. So going to your
Mm-hmm.
local city or town Christmas fair, researching the policies that companies you purchase from have prior to your purchase. So all these things may
Mm-hmm.
sound inconvenient to an average consumer, but in the end, that's the extra push that you need in order to be more sustainable, because it's not just a matter of saying, well, is it convenient to be sustainable? Well, not necessarily always. It takes an extra push, but it can
Mm-hmm.
be convenient. And I think regarding the second part of the question, which was the long term, this is extremely important because material things don't necessarily last forever, as an experience might. And I personally love gifting experiences, such as like an online course, or, a massage, or a
Mm-hmm.
ceramics
I
class. Like, I love
agree.
that. But when you are buying material things, just by doing a quick mental life cycle assessment of the thing, for lack of better word, that you're buying, you immediately become more aware of the impact that it has. So, for example, am I buying a
Mm-hmm.
plastic toy for my child that will break after 3 uses and end up in the recycling bin? Or am I buying a wooden toy that has multiple uses? It comes from certified wood, and I think it will last them over 5 years. Or am I buying an article of clothing from a fast fashion brand that comes from the other side of the world and throughout its supply chain potentially has child labor? Or am I buying a garment made with organic fabrics that is made locally by an artist? Of course, and you mentioned this, price is something to take into consideration. But I think I always ask myself, what price are we really paying by purchasing things that will break or stop working in the very short run? I think it's important to think ahead when we're purchasing. Otherwise, we're making choices based on impulse and not on logic. And, if we
Mm-hmm.
view buying during the holidays in the same way that we view other choices that we make in our daily lives, I think that would really make a difference long term. And it's an important thing to just have in mind, ultimately, because
Mm-hmm.
we have become very compulsive buyers, and we're, maybe buying, very cheap things, but buying hundreds of those cheap things rather than paying a higher price for a better quality object, or etc.
Yes, and I'm actually guilty of this as well. And for one thing, for me, what has shifted in terms of my purchasing behavior is when we purchase the clothing and then we wear them. Sometimes we feel like if we keep on wearing the same clothes, this is me personally. When I wear the same clothes almost 10 times when I go out, especially going to the same place that I go every week, I kind of felt, oh, do I? As a as a human myself, I kind of get affected by that, but at the
Same,
same time,
same. I mean,
yeah, we have to
we
shift
have
that
to shift
mindset.
that mindset, and I think it
Yeah.
happens, I mean, to all of us. It happens to me, at least, if I have like a very nice work outfit, that I've worn like for 5 times that I've met, with the same RSPO member, something, I get self-conscious, and I'm like, I need to
Exactly.
switch this outfit up. And I think that it's just that, again, that consumerist mentality. I think that is exacerbated during the holidays, for sure.
I agree. I agree. We had a really great conversation today. I want to wrap our discussion up with a really simple takeaway message. If, for example, if it's me, I want to make a different purchasing decisions. What advice would you give
So
me?
you're asking me to be concise, and I'm not the most concise person, but I'll try to wrap this up with a few ideas I think that have come up throughout the conversation. So I'm by no means an expert on this topic at all. I did do my master's in sustainability, so I'm very passionate about responsible sourcing of like food and clothes and toys. So, I've given you my 2 cents, but I think if someone were to start from scratch to make better purchasing decisions, the easiest way, in my opinion, is to make sure your products or whatever you're buying is certified. And I'm not just saying this because I work for the RSPO. Certification schemes are such an amazing way for the consumer themselves to not have to do that much extra work, because that the certification has led the company to go through checks and balances. And so yes, there are so many certification schemes. So of course, if I'm buying food and cosmetics, I make sure that the palm oil in my product is deforestation free. It has super high labor standards, and so therefore I look for the RSPO label. So that's like my first thing, because that's something that you don't have to change for. You can simply just look at the label, and labeling is important, and certification schemes are important, and they're there for a reason, and they've gained all this strength and reputation because they're providing the checks and balances. But there's other things, right? So for example, I make sure that I stand by the brand's ethos and their policies. So usually policies are outlined on their website. I like to research a little bit about the brands I'm buying. In the past, when I was way younger, and I started studying sustainability when I was 20, so that was 20 years ago. I've made the mistake of buying things that later I've read articles about that company that made me really uncomfortable that I was supporting that. And so I think just researching is important. And also, and to close, I like to keep a simple rule and follow it as much as I can. So it's the 80-20 rule, and I think a lot of people know this. It's the 80% of the time I'm able to, and 20% I know that I can sway from this because of convenience or lack of availability, etc. So for clothes, that looks like 80% of the time I try and buy secondhand or from local retailers and artists. 20% of the time I can sway. For food, I try and buy organic and certified, as well as go to the farmers markets. And for my kids, for example, I try and swap with friends. I try and swap with family members that have older children in order to minimize the amount of buying. So I think that would be sort of my closing in some of the things that a consumer can do to start off.
Thank you so much for that. This is something that is easy. It's an easy idea that we can start our sustainability journey with, especially during the festivity season, and it doesn't have to stop there. We can continue it even after the holidays. So thank you so much, Yasmina, for the amazing advice and also your perspective on sustainability and consumer behaviors, and all the discussion that we had. And thank you so much for spending your time at the Palm Pot.
Thank you, Farah. This was such a nice conversation. I'm so happy to have been able to share a bit more of my personal, side to holiday shopping. It's not the usual like technical RSPO related content that I'm used to sharing. But I think it was super enriching for me too. And happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Likewise, and happy holidays to everyone. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Palm Pod on your favorite podcasting platforms, and feel free to share your feedback for our next episode. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone. I was speaking to our guest, Yasmina Neustadtl, Senior Manager, Market Transformation Americas, RSPO. I am Fara Rom, and this is the Palm Pod.